Welcome everybody to today's Top Leaders Live. I am on a mission to help tech leaders become the tech leader that everyone wants to work for. And as such, it is so fun for me to bring guests onto the show from time to time to really help you to become that tech leader, right? That everybody wants to work for. Now, here's the thing, you guys, this is a little bit of a deviation from the leadership stuff we talk about, because today we have a real treat with Allison here with us today, because she is going to help all of us high achieving, awesome corporate people deal with those children of ours that just are giving us a hard time with all of the things that they do. And so, Allison, welcome. Thank you so much for coming on today's Top Leaders.
Oh, it's great to be here. And especially because I think of it as leadership within the home, because we are the CEOs of our families and they are looking to us to be really top leaders. And so it's actually a perfect segue into what I work with parents all the time. And it's just hard when your kids do not obey, they don't cooperate, they don't listen. That's what I'd love to talk more about.
Good. We're going to get into it for sure. So a little bit about Allison, and then we're going to delve into some great questions here. So Allison is a parent coach for high achieving parents who are experiencing intense family dynamics, exhausting power struggles, and arguments over who's right. Over the past 20 years, as the parent of two strong-willed daughters, a parent coach, conflict resolution specialist, high-achieving technical sales rep, and youth mental health first aid responder, Allison has observed and/or been involved in a great deal of conflict. All of these factors resulted in the education and thriving tools that enable parents to break the cycle of the ineffective coping strategies they grew up with. So instead of continuing with what leads to resistance and non-cooperation, parents build the skills to connect and set clear limits. So Allison, thank you again so much. It's so, I'm just kind of dying a little bit over this whole topic around parenting these strong-willed kids. Because I became a mom for the first time at the age of 40. And so now my daughter, she's 7. And I remember thinking, oh, this is going to be great. I'm older. I'm more mature. I can totally handle the things, right? And now I got this first grader that I'm like, who are you? Why are you doing this? Telling you to do, and every day when I am coaching with my clients, and again, so many of the people that I'm coaching with, these are leaders, these are executives, these are people who they have people that do the things they tell them to do at work, right? And then they got this little human being at home, or maybe not always little, right? Sometimes it's little teenagers too, right? And you're going, why can't I get you to do the things? This is such a big struggle. So I'm so glad that you're here. You're like our fairy godmother of parenting. So you're going to help us today.
I am, because I was you. I had a over 10-year career as a high-tech sales rep. I rose to a very high level and I was very good at what I did. And that was right before I ended up having my first child. And exactly the same experience. She came out of the womb just so spirited, so intense, so passionate. And I was like, what do I do? I was really a compliant child. Why isn't she listening to me? So, and it's just I have a message of hope, because if I can do it, any parent can do it, because I had all these conditioned responses to repress my emotions when she would get super angry. And I just want to say I have all the bad habits, and it's skills, it's skill building. And any parent who's having trouble with their child, who's having awful family dynamics, no matter what the age, it can get better, and you're not alone.
Nice. Thank you. That's great. Thank you for hope. All these parents over here waving the flag like, somebody please come save me. So that's so good. So out of the gate, let's talk about, give us an example of somebody that you've worked with, right? Who has dealt with a strong-willed child. Let's pick an elementary age. Maybe that's, relevant enough for people who are listening to this, right? And so give us an example of kind of the dynamics of what was going on and then where things are at now.
Yeah. So most parents that come to me often have an elementary school child. They are struggling. They are in pain. Their child isn't going to bed. Their child is not brushing their teeth. Their child is screaming when they leave the park. Their child is saying, "You didn't make my breakfast right," and is generally being awful. And our parenthood is, I'm giving my entire life to you. I have birthed you. I am paying attention to you. Why are you treating me like this? So there's two things going on. Yes, the child is doing awful behavior, like a family that I often work with both parents, because when we're all on the same page, it's the best. And they each have their own perspectives. That's a whole nother topic. But when I'm working with the parents, this one particular family, their child had gotten kicked out of school. And he was 8, and he was a very strong-willed child, and he was just fiery, and he was just super quick, 0 to 60. I do this is like Dan Siegel's brain. And when you lose you melt down, you blow up, you have no access to your amygdala. You're just really fiery, you're emotional, you're tantruming, you're hitting, you're spitting, you're just the worst, right? Yeah. And most parents have been taught that you need to stop this. You need to control that. You need to discipline. That is not okay. You need to stop that. And that just makes these strong-willed children feel less understood, less seen, less accepted. And the whole model that I teach is that when a child is dysregulated, when a child is doing awful behavior at me, they're yelling no, that's when they need our support the most. And that's when it's the hardest for me to give. So two things are happening. We're missing each other. Mm-hmm. I'm projecting all this onto my child, that they should be listening. They should be able to handle this. They're 8 after all. They shouldn't be kicked out of school. They should be listening to their teachers. And all that shoulding is actually shame. And that's making them feel less understood and just more of this, no one gets me. And that just is like pouring gasoline on the fuel to their fire, and they get worse because clearly they're not communicating. They're not being heard. They're not being understood. Mm-hmm. And so with this boy and his family, his dad was actually in the police force, and his mom was doing everything she could to try and understand him. And he just felt missed. And so he didn't have enough connection capital built up, enough trust, because they didn't know what to do for him. Mm-hmm. And so I was able to work with both the parents, and it's sort of a two-pronged effort. Again, this is skill building. It is increase your connection capital by having special time and no agenda time, when you just really look for what's underneath, what was going on right before they exploded. There's a reason. So it's believe them. And it's even saying, I believe you, something really matters. I get this is hard. It's validating their experience, building trust. It's being on their team, coming alongside them. Because so often these kids, and the reason I'm so passionate about this and what my experience was with my daughter, was that they get all this negative disapproval face. And that makes them feel even more isolated and more dysregulated. And so the first part is building the connection capital of, I believe you, I'm on your team, we're going to work this out together. Mm-hmm. And that's really hard, because the parent is going, how dare you? You know, my amygdala is flipped. I am feeling heart rate palpitations, and I'm feeling steam and heat. Nice. And I'm looking like, oh my gosh, those other moms are watching me. And what am I going to tell people, that my child got kicked out of school and it's so embarrassing? You know, I'm having my own reaction over here. So that's part of this skill building process, is a set of steps so that I can work with my own reaction. So it's kind of a two-pronged way of dealing with this. Mm-hmm. And again, there's hope, because these skills can be learned.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned connection capital. Can you talk, what is that specifically?
Yeah. So that is so often, and especially if you are rational and you have learned to kind of suppress all your emotions, you speak from your left brain. You speak logic, you speak rational, you speak comparison, you speak analytical. And again, if you're a high-tech worker, that's what you're trained in. That's what you specialize in. Or if you're an attorney, same thing. You're up in your head. And so we don't have easy access. We're not educated in how to relate, how to build connection capital. And connection is that there's no right answer. There's no way it should be. There's just me and there's you. And I'm curious about you and I want to know you and I want to do things that you like to do, instead of, oh no, there's a way it should be done and I'm going to tell you how it's going to happen. Too often I got in the Tilly the taskmaster, and that part of my persona would come out and I would just tell my daughter what to do. Well, this would hit her core fear of being controlled. And so that's why, again, we just keep missing our kids, and it just doesn't work because we're not relating with them. We're managing them.
Tilly Taskmaster. Her twin sister might just live at my house. I'm just going to say, I'm just saying.
Yeah. Well, and her sister is also Rebecca Responsible. So I have these parts of me, and then there's her other sister, Susie Superdoer, who just is really good at getting things done. Again, that is approved of in the world. It got my A's, it got my parents' approval. And so those parts of our persona got lifted up. And now I have to sort of go, okay, let me give you another job over here. You go take a vacation, because Valerie Vulnerable and my Connie Connector is what's really needed, because we relate from the heart. We relate from not having any way it should be done. We just be, we're open, we're present. That's where we build connection capital. And it's hard to do. We don't know how to do it. So that's where the skill building comes.
So interesting, because I'm thinking about how all these things allowed us to excel when we were growing up, right? And we got the attaboys and the attagirls for this, right? We got the fives, and now fast forward decades later,
that's not what's skillful,
right?
We can't. It's actually builds armor. It's what keeps us successful in the world, but it's actually armoring. It's a Brene Brown term, between me and connecting with you or my child. And so we have to learn how to disarm, take all those things that we've been practicing for 10, 20, 30, 40 years and literally put them aside, unlearn them temporarily, so that we can just be pure and connect.
All right, so let's talk about that for a second, because habits, mama, those are so hard to break. So Allison, you're telling us we got to unlearn some of this stuff. Like, what would even be like the first step in trying to unlearn?
So one of the great exercises I have parents do is called no agenda time. And if you're like most high achieving people, you have a to-do list and you are very efficient, you are very practical, you're very organized, and you're used to being that way. And so it's just, oh, I see you, that part of me. That's really effective in this part of my world, but I'm going to put that to the side. I'm going to give you a 30-minute timeout vacation. And I'm going to say, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do no agenda time. And for some people, this literally gives them the heebie-jeebie vapors, because they're like, if I'm not productive and if I'm not accomplishing something, who am I? Like, my whole identity is tied to that part of me, that get an A part of me. So again, that's going to rest for a few minutes. I call give thinking mind a rest. And I'm going to, for even 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes, just explore. Just take that sort of doing part, and I'm going to go let my child direct. And I'm just going to follow. I'm going to follow what they're seeing, what they're smelling, what they're feeling. I'm going to play whatever game they want. There's just no agenda but what the child wants to do. So instead of telling, directing, again, put that side just temporarily down. The building connection capital is just following and being curious. It's developing that part of us that's underdeveloped, that is a bit whimsical. There's some imagination, it's sensory, and it's literally let your child guide you. And they love that feeling of empowerment, that they're in charge. So it's a beautiful way to start that relating process. That's awesome. And I have lots more.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. Of course. Absolutely. I know you've got years of helping with this. So anyhow, I'm just kind of cracking up a little bit because I'm like, I could totally see myself being like, okay, I'm going to schedule 15 minutes.
Exactly.
It's like,
and it's okay.
But it's still
because
old. Oh, I'm just so messed
part
up.
of the job is to give ourselves a break and just
Uh-huh.
go, yeah, no wonder I've been doing this for the last, huge chunks of my life. So this is going
Right.
to feel awkward. So the other huge part of this work is building your tolerance for discomfort. Tolerance for discomfort. So we have been trained our entire lives to get rid of discomfort, to stop it, to literally push it down, repress it.
Yeah, right.
Turns out this counterintuitive work, the way to connect is to tolerate discomfort of embarrassment, the discomfort of anger, the discomfort of whatever the emotion is. Uncertainty for me, I hate feeling uncertain. I want to know, I want to have it controlled, I want to be in charge. Again, put that part to the side and just, oh yeah, when my child shows up fiery or angry or demanding or obstinate or defiant, that I just get triggered. I like, this should not be happening. So, ooh, stay. It's a feeling I'm not used to, being tolerant of. Stay there. There's something underneath the emotion that is here for me. There's that anger is for my child, has nothing to do with me. It's trying to point to an unmet need. And when I can get to that level, that's where we connect.
Okay. Oh my goodness. So, okay. So then it's okay that I try this for 15 minutes and I schedule it. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Again, any way to start. And sometimes, again, if the idea of even 15 or 30 minutes, again, is so like, I can't even start that. No, that feels like chaos. 5 minutes. Okay. Walk to the mailbox and just look for colors. There's no right or wrong way to do this. And again, that gives most of the people I work with heart palpitations because they're so conditioned to the right, wrong, good, bad way of thinking. And this is, no, put that to the side. There's no way to do this right or wrong. You're just being. You're practicing being.
Okay. I like that. My goodness. I'm just reflecting on, this is such an important conversation because, I mean, I just think about all of these adults that I know, right? Parents that have kids, that they are flat out struggling.
Yeah.
They just really are. And then, I think, okay, so just a little vignette into my life. When I married Chad, he had been married before. So at the time when we got married, he had twin daughters that were 14 and a 9-year-old boy. And then I come into the family and I'd not had kids before. Right. And so, instantly I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. And so like my natural thing, this is what I ended up telling the kids. And I'm just going to tell you this. You're probably gonna be like, Jen, no. But anyhow, this is what happened. I just told him, I said, listen,
no right or wrong.
Like, yeah, I'm like, you got your mom. So like, I'm like, I'm gonna, and I said, I'm your bonus mom. like whatever we get is a bonus because he only got the kids like every other weekend or something. Yeah, it was every other weekend. And, that it was way too complicated or whatever to get together in the middle of the week on other days and stuff like that. And so I just remember thinking, yeah, I'm their stepmom, but like, I am not involved in their life, like there's like, other than when they come over to our house, right. And then, helping to cook dinner, we, organize something to play and do something, whatever it was that we were doing. But I was like, I'm just going to be your bonus mom. So here we are now, 8 years later, I still call my bonus kids. They call me their bonus mom. And I'm sitting here thinking like, I'm like, I hope I didn't completely jack up that relationship. I'm like, literally, I feel like I've had like a teeny little small percentage, and yet I'm observing things that I am definitely that like high powered, go, and that's not necessarily where these kids are coming from. That's not, their mothering experience from the woman who gave birth to them. You know what I mean? And so I'm like, I can't. I just abdicated. I was like, I can't, like, I have no control over this because I have such a tiny little piece of time. Anyhow, give me thoughts and feedback on what I just shared with you.
Yeah. I just want to give you a dose of reassurance. Like, you showed up and you were authentic with them. And that is more important than pretending that you were trying to be something you weren't. And they can sense inauthenticity like that. They're so perceptive, kids are, about the nonverbals. 80% of communication is nonverbal. And so you speaking, I'm your bonus mom, I'm not going to try to be your mom, you've already got one, was brilliant. And they could then see you for what you were, which is just extra. And you weren't telling them what to do, it sounds like. You weren't putting all these shoulds on them. So they probably found that very refreshing.
Okay. Well, good. Okay. So I didn't totally screw it up. Okay.
And honestly, Dan Siegel says the power of showing up. It's really our work to just not try to, again, do it right or do what we should. It's really just what's alive for me? Who am I? And let me just relate with you. We have to clear through all this, should stuff.
Yeah.
And just be where we are, which is, either angry or confused or, a little tired, whatever we are. It's don't pretend to be something we're not, because kids will see right through it.
Right. Amen to that tired thing. I think parents are tired.
Tired and overwhelmed because we're all juggling so many balls. So much of this work is just listening and compassion for the parents for what you are doing. Our brain has this negative bias to go to what's not working. And it tunnels in on what's not working, and that blows up instead of the million things you did get done. What is working? So it's also just remembering that so you can shift your bias from what's not working to what is working. Because that, again, helps us feel more grounded, more centered, more connected. And that's when we can be our best parenting self.
Yeah. I love that.
Not our inner critic of, oh, I blew that. Oh, and I didn't do that. Oh, and I forgot that. And I'm tired. And
right.
That's not going to help.
Oh, thanks. Okay. So, I want to get into that for a second. All right. Because so my husband, we got our 7-year-old, right? She's with us full time. The other kids, they're kind of popping in and out, whatever. Right. Okay. But I see my husband totally just flogging himself, so frustrated, you know what I mean? And all of these things. And I'm going, I'm over here trying to just be loving and supportive, like it's going to be figured out. It's okay. You know what I mean? But anyhow, so I guess where my thought is that, because a lot of people are co-parenting. I know there's a lot of blended family stuff too, whatever, right? But there's still co-parenting, that's happening a little bit, right? And so you take two high achieving parents or conscientious, engaged parents, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And how can we support from one parent to the other parent? How can we support each other when we see the other one who's just flipping out? Like, he gets so mad at himself when he loses his cool, and then that sends him down this whole other rabbit hole.
Yes. You've said so much, and it comes up every family I work with, no matter what the blend is of divorced parents, single parents, two parents. It is the same thing, that you are coming from different perspectives and that you had your own childhood experience. And so the first work we do is some self-awareness work about what was that like for you? What were emotions like in your family? What were you given kudos for? What were you given disapproval face for? Because those are the things that are going to come out and be triggered in your own parenting experience. And it's important to have some visibility on it. So it gives us, I actually have a trigger tracker so that people can understand what are the minefields that are going to make them go to 0 to 60. And for your husband, it's what is going to trigger his inner critic, and I did it wrong or I did it bad. And often when we get to that point, we go down the shame chute. And again, this is from our own childhoods. All of our parents used shame as one of the biggest tools unintentionally. It's all they knew because their parents did it. They gave, that awful disapproval face. Well, you learned, that part of me is not accepted. And so I'm going to lock that away. I'm going to repress that, but it's still part of us. And so it still gets triggered. So it's a complicated mix, and we need to shine the light on it so that we can befriend it and heal it so it doesn't control us all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other part is we want to take our feelings away from our spouse. We don't want him to beat himself up. So we want to reassure and make them feel better, right? That whole make them feel better we do with our kids, we do with our spouse. It's actually the worst thing we can do.
I knew you were going to say that.
Because our emotions, our hard emotions, our dark emotions, whatever you want to call them, are here for us.
Yeah.
They're trying to guide us. They're a compass to our unmet needs. And when we stuff them, when we numb them, when we offload them, we break that vital cycle, that biologically designed cycle to get to our unmet needs. So what we really want to do is hold space and say, yeah, you're feeling really, really upset right now. You're feeling like you blew it, aren't you? Oh, that's hard. You just want to meet them.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And it's hard to do because our habit is emotion's bad. I want to take you out of your emotion. I want to fix you. I want to fix the solution, the situation.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I did this all the time. I still do it with my kids. So it's don't beat myself up more, whack, whack, whack. It's, oh yeah, this is a hard moment. I'm feeling really uncomfortable because they're uncomfortable. I hate seeing my daughter feel lonely or left out. It just is like nails on a chalkboard. So again, connect with myself and what this is stimulating for me so that I can then be there to hold space for her. Yeah, it's hard to be lonely. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm. Oof. Look at all these truth bombs you're laying on us today.
And if we want to go to when a child is doing something really bad, like they won't brush their teeth, they won't go to bed, they won't leave the park, they're dysregulated. And it's really hard skill for a child to want something, have a desire, and not get it. And that's part of life.
Yeah.
So two things can be true. It's one of the most important skills from Good Inside, and I've learned it previously as well, is that they can want something and it's validate that want at the same time you hold the limit. And so I have a skill that I teach is set a limit with a love sandwich. So you set the limit, but you offer the love sandwich. So the L is the limit, because all kids need boundaries and limits. It's the most loving thing you can do. That's our role. And their role is to feel about it. They can feel as pissed as they want, as frustrated. And we're trying to teach them frustration tolerance. So the O is to be open and just to say, yeah, this is going to be a hard situation. We need to leave the park. You don't want to leave the park. That's what is. So don't sugarcoat it. Don't pretend it's not there. It's be truthful about it. Be open. And then the V is validate their feelings. Yeah, it's you really don't want to leave the park. You were having so much fun. You were playing in the sand. You were building that super cool thing. Oh, it's so hard when you have to leave, isn't it? So it's validate what they're feeling. Don't try to take them out of it. And then the E is empathize, which is, oh yeah, I remember when I was your age, it was so hard to leave doing when I was playing and I was engaged and I was having so much fun. Yeah, this is a hard time and we're still going to leave. And I can hold your hand or you can walk by yourself. Limits with a love sandwich.
Yeah, I love that. That's so good.
Because so often what we do, what our gut instinct is just to shame them. Like, oh, come on, you've been playing for 45 minutes. What do you want? 2 hours? Come on, we're late. Let's go. And we give them all that disapproval face, right? Unintentionally. So it's not beat ourselves up.
Right.
It's, oh yeah, this is what I learned. This is what came out of my mom's mouth. Or this is what I've overheard. Or this is what came out of my husband's mouth. Or whatever the situation is. No one's wrong. We all have feelings. We're trying to relate, not manage.
Right. Right. Come on, we manage all the other things, right? Can we manage our little kids?
I tried to. I thought, life was a big puzzle and I just needed to move the pieces in the right order. Everything would work out fine. Well, then I had this strong-willed child that was so in her own, she had her way of doing everything. So me as competent and efficient and, oh my gosh, we just went head to head constantly. So that's why I went and learned all these skills and tools and practices. And that's why I'm so passionate about sharing them with parents, because it really doesn't have to be so hard.
Right. Yeah.
It doesn't have to be an intense family dynamic.
Good. Very good. So then on the other side, because now she's older, right? So how is now you have I guess you have the luxury of looking back on it. So what have you noticed now?
It's a gift, because I literally have hindsight 2020, because she's 23. We have a beautiful relationship. And I just will say a cautionary tale that I have met a lot of families who have a strong-willed child that they weren't able to get these skills, and they're estranged, or they have such a caustic, toxic relationship, they just don't ever get together.
Yeah.
And so it is so vital to do this work, to do this emotional tolerance work, so that we can relate. Because when we're at a needs level, when we're talking about needs and feelings, we will never argue.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say that again, that all the power struggles are because we're attaching to being right, or that it has to be this way. It's a strategy. But when we get underneath to the values and the feelings, we relate, and we can be in connection. And so the 2020 is, my daughter has said, if you had just been able to not take my anger personally, we could have had so much more of an easier time of it. And if you had been able to just give me my time and space to have that big emotion and to validate it, everything would have been different sooner. And I'm glad I got the tools, because we were able to do the work. So there's one other thing I want to leave parents with, is that it's never too late, that you can always make a repair and change the ending. Because if you did blow it, like we all do, especially in the moment when we're learning this new stuff, we're going to blow it. We're going to get angry. We're going to give them disapproval face. We're going to shame them. It's never too late to go back after everyone's had a little bit of time. And I used to bring my daughter a cup of warm milk as sort of my peace offering. And I would sometimes rub her back, because sometimes too much verbal was intense for her. And then I would own my part. I would say, hey, that wasn't my best parenting moment. I got really triggered. That was stuff from my past. I'm sorry I directed it at you. I know you were having a hard moment. I'm ready to talk about it whenever you are. So it's never too late.
That's awesome. That's really good. I know, because I'm thinking about Chad's twins now they'll be 23. So very close in age, right? And I'm thinking, I don't know. Because and then, and then there's always, I don't know. I mean, even here I am now, I'm a 48-year-old woman, right? And I look at my relationship with my mom, who's in her 70s, right? Yeah. And there's still stuff that triggers us, you know?
Yeah,
and
sure.
So, and even as rational adults, you know, we tried to do our best. But anyhow, my mom's going to listen to this, like, thanks a lot, Jen, for talking about that. Anyhow, but it's like, it's real. I mean, I guess just as we're, you know, as I'm listening to you share these thoughts, it's like, oh, like this kind of doesn't just stop when they graduate high school.
No, it's humanness. It's humanness, and it goes on the rest of their lives, and they'll bring it to their next relationship. Right. So again, it's never too late. I thought actually that my daughter would never be able to have a relationship, because she was so fiery and so intense, and it's so triggering to me. That's the other thing I wanted to bring up, is that there's different temperaments. And so my younger daughter was much more compliant, much more easygoing. And so the temperament of the child is really a huge factor, and the temperament of the parent. And so some of the work we do is also identifying what is our temperament, and how do we connect or mesh with each other, or bounce off each other. And so it's just a way of how to understand each other, so that we can relate instead of, you know, do this power struggle.
Right. Yeah. Right. Absolutely. Oh, because it's so exhausting. And then it adds that whole tired thing.
Well, and that's part of the work is we need to build in space and time, because emotions are messy and they take some time, but it's priceless. It's the most valuable thing you can spend your time on. I know we want to fit in every activity under the sun to help our kids be these accomplished Chinese speakers, and violin and soccer and lacrosse and all these different things. And one of the things that Brene Brown, who is one of my gurus, says is we just needed to look at our whole family pie chart, and we all took out 2 activities because we were just overscheduled.
Mm-hmm.
And so part of it is saying this is important to human mental health and well-being.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a mental health first aid responder, and the amount of, when they get into their teens of numbing, when they can't handle this discomfort, they will numb it with drugs and alcohol and cutting and food disorders. And so it's really get ahead of that.
Mm-hmm.
And help us relate on an emotional level, because when they have the frustration tolerance, then they know they're not alone, and they know there's an outlet for this that's not one of those more destructive ways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love that. That's very reassuring, right? Because we really don't know what's going to come down the pipe for our kids, or I mean, even for us as adults, and so yeah. It sounds a whole heap a lot more healthy and effective.
And I want to give again these high-tech workers, because I was this person who was pretty disconnected from my whole emotional landscape. I was just a accomplisher, a really effective accomplisher. And that's okay. That's a gift too. That Susie Superdoer has served me well. And we have lots of parts of us. So the work is to sort of befriend and get to know these other parts and feelings that we haven't spent as much time with in our other parts of our lives. And it is possible. There are exercises to do, and there's knowledge as well as skills that everyone can learn to have a better relationship with their child, with their mom, with their spouse. The good part is that if you do this for your kids, which is what I was most motivated by, it went into all areas of my life and improved all relationships, because I got less triggered when someone was late, or when someone, didn't react as I expected them to. I didn't take it personally. Mm-hmm. I was able to see, oh, that's their stuff, my stuff. It's like a tennis court. You stay on your side, I'll stay on my side.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really good. I'm so glad that you brought that up, because I thought, golly, I can see how this totally applies in the corporate arena, with these teams, and they're frustrated with each other, and so didn't do their part. Now the rest of the project's late, and then it's like all of, these bashing and the anger, and yet so much of it's repressed and not communicated because they don't know how, or they're not allowed to bring it up. Right. And so,
Yeah. So getting into some coaching, one of the best questions is just, where am I? Am I reactive? Am I withdrawn and repressed? Mm-hmm. Or am I here, present, and able to connect? Mm-hmm. And if you can just ask yourself that question, and then we have a sort of a process, some steps. If you are feeling reactive, you're making up stories about them, you're blaming them, what can you do? How can you give yourself care? How can you kind of come back from that? How can you shift so that you can get back to your open, present, curious place? Mm-hmm. It's a wonderful place to be.
So true. Oh my gosh. I'm glad for that. I'm glad for curiosity being a good place.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Allison, I feel like we could get into like 700 other examples. It just gets to be way too long for this kind of platform, right? So let's do this. As we're pulling this together, give us like your final parting words that's going to help us high achieving people with these strong-willed kids.
Yeah. So one of the best tools is stop to connect. And if you just find yourself upset, and there's so many body clues to when we're upset. My jaw gets really tight. Some people, they get really hot. Some people, they get stomach glitches. Some people, they fist their hands. So one of the best ways to start this process is just look for your body tells. And when you are upset, stop, U-turn. Because if you're feeling upset at them, then you're projecting and you're taking something personally. So it's just upset, stop to connect, and U-turn. Mm-hmm. And that will save you so much from things you would then have to repair from. And if you do blow it, then just go, hey, I'm going to make a repair.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So it's never too late.
Okay. Good stuff. All right. Things are getting better in the Anderson household. I'm just going to start working on this stuff. So thank you for that. And Allison, what's the one place that we can reach you? What would be a good spot?
You can actually get the infographic about Stop to Connect for free on my website. It's the number 5 steps to connect.com.
Okay.
So it's a great place, and just practice with it. There's also an online course that is super reasonably priced where you can go through it about anger, and it teaches you so much about your own anger, their anger, and how not to get enmeshed in each other, but just to let it be for us, because anger is actually super valuable. It has so much to teach us. It mobilizes our resources. It helps us get to those unmet needs. So when we can frame it as anger is a positive, it's a benefit, instead of, oh my gosh, no, my grandfather used to get angry and it was so scary, and no, I'll never get angry again. We can reframe our ability to be angry. And then, of course, there's coaching, both group and one-on-one. And I love working with people because there's just such hope. There's such possibility that we can really turn around these intense, hard family dynamics.
Awesome. Well, thank you for the good stuff that you're doing. I'll just say thank you for all the parents out there, so thank you so much. And it's just reassuring to know we've got some good options. So thank you for that. Very good. It's been so great.
It's not too late.
Yeah, good. That's what's the best. Like, oh, good. Okay. Take a deep breath. Yeah. I'm going to be okay.
Take a deep breath.
Yeah, I love that. Well, thank you for joining me on this episode of Today's Top Leaders.
It is my pleasure. And I just wanted to say, when you do go to the website, there is a free coaching just to give you one tip to see if this is of benefit to you. And if it's not, then there's no obligation.
Okay, awesome. I love that. Thank you. You're so generous. Thank you so very much. Well, everybody, thank you for joining us today on Today's Top Leaders Live. It's been so good to be here. And again, you can find more with Allison. Her website and everything will be linked in the show notes here. And so by all means, reach out if this is something that resonates with you. And if you want to get past the frenzy of those strong-willed kids and instead have a great relationship, I, for one, am definitely going to partake of these wonderful resources. So thanks again, Allison, for joining us. And my friends, go out there, do good stuff, and know that you too can become the tech leader that everyone wants to work for.